new movies a year.
What if I told you it's about lesbian nuns having crucifix sex and it's the best movie ever made?
That sounds gross. What if you get a splinter in there? That's disgusting. I don't want to see that at all.
Well, I mean,
I mean, it
well,
just
Molly's
it means nothing to me. I mean, like, I guess for a lot of people, their parents made them be Catholic. That movie would. I don't know. A nun's just like a nun might as well be like one of the professions that Tom of Finland drew. That's how little it means to me. I don't really care.
Hey, what was one of Tom of Finland's number one professional portraits? That's right, the police. All
Yeah, that's
Tom of
true.
Finland's are bastard. Police, sailors, construction workers, they're all bastards.
But it's
You
like
gotta
it's about you're containing them in the frame. You're putting the jackboot in the frame.
Well, I mean, to refocus back from like the Verhoeven world we live in, actually, like the message of Benedetta is, I think, one that is similar to Heidi Fleiss's story in a lot of ways, because I think the message of Benedetta is that if you're a hot woman, you can and should be allowed to do whatever you want. And this is sort of the world that Heidi Fleiss came out of, like, you're coming out of her sort of like new agey parents, and then being among people who are even wealthier than her family in Beverly Hills, and just having access to like just like everything as like a teenager, and and of like like sex, celebrity, money, all of it. Like,
But
how did
it's
she
also,
go
like,
from that?
she was kind of a dork. It's like she molded herself into this thing, and a lot of people in Heidi World are guys, especially, that were like nerdy guys who molded themselves into like the coolest guy in the world that they could think of, especially like Don Simpson. So Heidi was also like, she was like kind of an outcast in high school. She wasn't like popular, and she, I think, just seemed like a very insecure, like, she isn't like a California beach blonde. She was like this kind of like big haired Jewish girl, which again is probably why I was like into the story, is because I was like, how did this big haired Jewish girl become like the most powerful,
The coolest person
the
ever.
coolest woman in the world? But yeah, I mean, it's like she really did have this. It's like she went to a sorority party early on. And so the Heidi Girl Mansion is really like her idea of like a sorority house of like, someday I'll be popular and living with all these other hot girls and we'll all have fun and be friends. And then she like made that the reality.
And she did it. Yeah.
There's no
Well, I
more
mean,
powerful cultural engine like pushing people along in life than the desire to experience as adults what they were not able to get at high school. And what they
100%.
like, that
And that,
defined their desire. That defined what it is to want anything. And then you get a chance to do it. That's what else are you
and
going to be
I
looking
mean,
for? What else are you going to try to
that's
do?
fucking Hollywood too. So it's
Yeah.
also like
Yes.
she was playing to these guys who she knew didn't get laid when they were younger and were now trying to make up for it by being like the fuckingest guys in the world. And that she could, and also that they had this yuppie guy idea of like, if it costs the most, it's going to be the best. We don't know. We don't know that sex you have for free with a woman who likes you might be just as good, if not better, than sex you paid $5 million for, Because they were like, if you pay $5 million, if you pay $4,000 for a night, but it is also like, it's a placebo effect. It's a psychological effect. If you think it's going to be the best because you paid the most, and also it's just like they're hot girls and you're a guy who can pay for sex and it makes you feel powerful. Like, she understood how to play these dudes. And that's also what was so smart about it, was that she branded it as like, it's better than everyone else because it's the most expensive.
So like so how did she go from being like like somewhat of an outsider, but also like an extraordinarily like smart young person who like just didn't really apply herself in school, but was obviously very intelligent and like ambitious. Like, how did she get involved in the world of like the sex trade, and particularly like in the marquee, like, because like basically like all of Hollywood is the sex trade in one way or another. Like, they are selling
Right.
sex. They are selling sex. They're selling. I mean, if not literally, then like they're selling the
They're selling
symbol
the
or the
image.
idea.
Yeah,
Of,
they're selling
exactly.
the image of beautiful women who you might be able to have sex with. That's like how everything is sold, and everybody knows that. And she understood that, but she was just kind of she had like her more famous friends. So her best friend was this girl Victoria Sellers, who was Peter Sellers' daughter, who she partied with a lot. And then this girl Jen Young, who was the daughter of this actor Gig Young, who had a crazy murder suicide and is fascinating. But she she met this guy, Ivan Naj, who's this slimebag Hungarian producer, who was kind of a hanger-on. He like started out taking pictures of Buffalo Springfield and then, just like a guy who hung out in LA and became a producer. And he
Is
introduced her
that
to
how?
this.
Is it? Wait, is that how easy it is to do? Because like, I mean, we're trying. I need.
Dude,
We.
you guys,
Yeah.
literally everybody in Hollywood, everybody in Heidi World, I didn't know this going in, but every producer is a criminal. Everybody in Hollywood started as a criminal and then became successful. And I mean, like, I do a little sidebar about Arnon Milchan, who maybe you guys know about. He's a former Mossad, and he smuggled a bunch of nuclear weapons from America to Israel, and then
Wow.
started a new
I was not.
regency.
Jesus Christ.
And produced movies such as JFK and LA Confidential, and
Two great movies.
The
Oh,
Northman. He produced all the best
okay.
movies.
This
That's
guy's
the
got
crazy.
taste. He can sell as
Yeah.
many fucking weapons as he
That's
wants.
what's so funny. And
Throw
then
the nuke in my backyard if you
in
keep these
2013,
babies coming.
somebody outed him as Israeli intelligence, and he was like, "Yep, it's true." Like, I did that, but now
No,
I've been a
absolutely.
producer.
Get
Um,
out of jail free card on that one.
yeah, you guys need to start hanging out at weird clubs and just offering people deals. But yeah, she met this guy Ivan Naj, who he also like he was out of directing at that point, out of really doing stuff in show business and just a full-time sports bookie. And so she was a gambling addict and she started betting with him. And then somebody lost a bet. And it's a little bit, everyone has a different story, but he introduced her to this Madam Alex, who was running LA at that time. And basically, she apprenticed with Madam Alex and learned how to run an escort business. And then Madam Alex got busted and Heidi took over.
But Heidi herself never, turned tricks herself, right?
She,
Like she sort
it
of like,
depends. It kind of depends what day you ask her. I think she didn't turn tricks when she was running Heidi, her own business, but I think she did turn tricks when she worked for Madame Alex at first. And then she was like, I don't think the turning tricks is for me. I want to be on the managerial side. And then she was.
and like and what made her so good at being
What made her so good
a
at all this
madam?
stuff is that she was just an incredible talker. And so she was incredible at talking people into doing things for her, talking people into like giving her money. She was just really charismatic. And I think also what I loved about her is that she's not like the hottest chick in the world. She's just the most charismatic person in the world. And also, these Hollywood guys are also all like fucking hustlers. And so they love her. A lot of them are older. She loves older men. A lot of them are Jews. She's like a young hot Jewish woman. They love her because they're all fucking bullshitters. And so she's one of them. She loves guys like Robert Evans because it's like she's also just a hustler. And they love her because they're like, she will give me, you know,
So
she
she
will
was
bring
someone who
me
could.
young girls.
She was someone who could actually bullshit a bullshitter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing I've learned in my life is that nothing they like more than to be topped, which is why I'm on this podcast today, asking you guys if you're circumcised.
Did my parents circumcise me? No. Did I regret it as a child? Yes. Have I come to accept it? Also, yes.
I do think it's really interesting because it is like men have feelings about it. It's like the one time that men, their agency is taken from them and they don't get to
Yeah,
decide. And
it's true.
I know some guys who have really angry about it because they're like, think
They
about all
should
the
be.
sexual pleasure I've been robbed of that I could have been having.
Yeah, think about all the money wasted on hand lotion. All right, well, let's get into like the let's talk some bold names. Let's talk some celebs here because like a big aspect of this story is her little black book of the names of many of Hollywood's most powerful and famous people who were patrons of her services. So like who are some of like the people that got pulled into this scandal and also
Well,
who largely never faced any consequences for it at
yeah,
all.
not only did they not face any consequences, like some of these guys, you look them up and they're still working in Hollywood, but also a lot of people didn't even get named. Like, I think a lot more, basically, I think everybody was involved. And this one guy, Michael Nathanson, was the fall guy, basically, but he didn't even get in trouble. He got another studio job right after. Heidi named a bunch of people in a Vanity Fair story and then took some of them back. She named Charlie Sheen. I feel like we can all talk about Charlie Sheen
No.
hiring
No, wait, no,
escorts
I
at
don't.
this
Wait, I don't
point.
buy
Would you
that. I
believe
don't buy
it?
Ridiculous
that.
poppycock.
But at the time, it was the first time it was like scandalous, and I get into this a little bit too. But like one thing that's likable about Charlie Sheen is he dated a bunch of porn stars when he was like the biggest actor in the world, which is like I think cool. He dated Ginger Lynn Allen and Heather Hunter. Um, but yeah, I mean, who else? James Caan.
End
The
of
big
tweet.
ones, yeah, the big ones I like. Billy Idol, who said he didn't. There may have been sex, but there wasn't commerce.
He
That's like
did
I
it so
smoked and
good
didn't
that she
inhale.
said, "No, I can't take money from
Isn't
you."
that like the funniest thing to say? Like, and then Billy Idol to be like, there may have been sex, but there wasn't commerce. Like on Jay Leno. Um, But the people that I have named a lot because they're dead and it's fine to name them are Robert Evans, who, the star of television Paramount Plus is The Offer right now. Um,
Matthew Good doing
Er,
a wonderful job,
do
I
you
have to
guys
say.
watch that show? I'm like obsessed
I
with
have not
it. It's
watched it yet.
so
I have not
bad.
watched it
It's
yet. But
It's
I will.
genuinely terrible, and it's like the death knell of art,
yes,
but it's
that's what
very
I
watchable. And yeah, Matthew Good. I did not know that a Gentile would be able to pull that off.
He also
It's
plays
very
Robert
impressive.
Evans as kind of like I have a galaxy brain take on it where I'm like it's good because it accidentally deflates all the Hollywood mythology by being like everyone sucks. But also it's like their Robert Evans is not that cool because the guy who made the show, Al Ruddy, who is the producer, the whole show is his stories of how The Godfather happened, in which everything good in The Godfather was his idea. And so
Yeah,
he's the coolest, fuckingest guy in the world, and Robert Evans has to be secondary to him in
yeah,
the
and
show.
he's making bad calls like, "I don't want Pacino. You're crazy. No, get Pacino
No
out of here."
Pacino, and Already's like, I don't know, Robert Evans. What if we let this young man take a chance? It's such an insane show. I can't stop watching. But
Yeah.
it is also like I'm obsessed with it because it is like in the way that Heaven's Gate was the end of 70s New Hollywood. Because they were like, we spent too much money on this and it's not, nobody's watching it. I think this is the Heaven's Gate of prestige television. It's
I mean,
like,
honestly,
like,
it's mind blowing. There's a scene in this, so they have like a subplot about like the Gallo
oh, I'm
Colombo
so
War,
glad you're watching it.
and in one of the scenes they show Joe Gallo shooting one of a Colombo underboss, and he's got a shotgun, and he goes to pump it, and instead of him racking the slide of a shotgun, he clearly just kind of moves his arms a little bit over a rack that
No.
doesn't move, and then they do a sound effect of the rack being pulled. He goes, "Shh." He might as well have done it with his mouth like he was a kid playing
I'm just imagining.
Cops and Roberts. And then he goes out, and of course, it's a big CGI muzzle flash. They couldn't even have him fucking pump a real shotgun.
It's
He had a
it's
fucking rubber stick that they had to go to.
Matt, I'm
everyone's
just.
doing a crazy voice. Everyone in the show does a different insane voice, and the guy who plays Al Pacino does the craziest.
Oh my gosh, it's like he just got back from the dentist.
It kind of
It's
sounds like
wild.
he's doing a Dustin Hoffman accent. It's such a crazy show. But you know
Matt,
what?
you're.
Actually, to bring it back around, I watched that show because I love bad Mad Men ripoffs. I was like, and that show is kind of like the main guy, Al Reddy. He's like, what if Don Draper, but like doesn't hate himself at all and has no darkness and is just the
And
coolest
it's
guy,
totally
loves to
cool.
have sex, and everybody thinks he's cool. But I watched that show, The Playboy Club, which was one of the first network Mad Men ripoffs, and it was a Hugh Hefner produced show about the Playboy Club, about how great it is to be a woman working at the Playboy Club with a fake Don Draper named Nick Dalton, played by Eddie Cibrian, who I'm convinced that Quentin Tarantino is the other person who watched this show, and that that's where the name Rick Dalton in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood
Hmm.
comes from. However, what's important about this show is that it starred as the Playboy Bunny Amber Heard. And that was the first place I saw Amber Heard and why I'm sort of loyal to her, because I was like, wow, she's playing this impossible character